Next up is WeedTraQR. David, where are you at? There you are. Come on up.
Thank you. We do regulatory compliance software for the marijuana industry. A little bit of history about it. Decriminalization of marijuana in the United States started in the 70s. At least a dozen states had decriminalized marijuana into the 80s. In 1996, California passed Proposition 215. That was a big deal. It was the first medical marijuana regulations in the United States. And by 2016, 20 years later, half of the union allows some kind of medical marijuana in their state, and 8 states have now allowed recreational marijuana use. Recreational marijuana use means it is regulated, it is taxed, and all of these farmers integrate with an electronic government system. The grow management, inventory control, packaging, invoicing, transportation, pesticide usage, nutrients, watering schedule, all of this stuff goes into one piece of software, and a lot of it, plugs into electronic government systems. The states have put out RFPs for vendors such as BioTrack or Franwell to operate those systems, and farmers, processors and distributors, labs, retailers, all have an obligation to keep their data in that system up to date within 24 hours of changes to that information. We have been doing this for about 2 years. Our first customer, June 2014, took a big risk to be the first person to try our software. The state did not even have a testing system set up, so we had to ask somebody to put tens of thousands of dollars at risk trying our beta quality software. Thank you, Tina. Through 2015, we grew in Washington, organic growth, pun intended. Farmers tell other farmers it's a very small community. And through 2016, we've continued to expand in Washington. We've got reach into New Mexico, we've got reach going into Oregon, and we're getting some inbound leads from Colorado without any direct effort so far in Colorado. Yay us. I'm David Busby. I am the founder and the engineer side of the team. The rest of my crew is here. Could you wave your hands, guys? Okay, there's Eric and Antonio and John. Where are you? John works with me on the customer support side, doing inbound phone calls, and Eric and Antonio are on the communications sales side. So far, we've been able to achieve a $280,000 a year run rate, and also unprompted, we're listed in Entrepreneur Magazine as 10 top startups to watch in 2016. This number right here, the low bar, is $5,000 a month, and over there is about $24,000 a month. This is a snapshot from our PayPal dashboard. What we plan to do in the future, starting next year, building out additional feature sets into the product. Now that we're in close to 100 farms, there's a lot of additional needs that we're aware of. There are additional business tools that can be built into the system, marketplaces between other vendors in the system, data exchanges, analytic reporting, things along that line. We're going to continue to expand our presence in Washington. We only have about 10% market share right now. I don't see why we can't get to 25. Continue to put pressure on in Oregon. New Mexico is not as big of a deal. There's only about 35 farms in New Mexico right now. Colorado is a big deal. They've been operating for a long time. It's a very mature industry. It'll be a good test for us. And those 4 other states that just passed marijuana laws, California, Massachusetts, Maine, and Nevada, we got to get a presence going on in those states. It means boots on the ground. That means we're going to travel. We've got to attend trade shows. And quite recently, we've had some inbound leads from Canada. They have only about 35 farms in Canada right now. They're using the BioTrack system and are sort of unhappy because it doesn't follow Canadian law. There might be some opportunities for us there. This is what our advancement across the continent looks like from our nice headquarters. We've I'm also our team's graphic designer. But we've got to get some presence going in New England. We have the state system in Illinois is also on BioTrack. It's medical, so it's a similar case with New Mexico. We need boots on the ground somewhere, Chicago, maybe Coal Valley. And California and Nevada are going to be a big deal. California is 12% of the population of the United States, so we should be able to get, our business at least 6 times larger by just moving into California. Second half of 2017, we're going to expand the state integration. That's a placeholder. We have to plan for the state changing these systems over time. The state agencies learn over time. The farmers learn over time. These systems are not static. We do plan on responding to a state RFP to be the system of record at the government level, either on our own or by partnering with other companies who are better at landing state RFPs than we are. We've received some inbound phone calls from companies like that, and we think if we continue this plan by the end of 2017, we should have reached a $750,000 annual run rate. And through 2018, we're going to have a good presence in 8 states. By the end of the year, we think we can do 1.6. There's going to be a bunch of other states voting on recreational marijuana. Governments love tax money. Citizens think it's a good idea. So there'll be more states that have this opportunity. We think we will be able to land one government system, either directly or with a partner. And we assume that there will be some buyers sniffing around because, well, we've made a compelling case. WeedTraQR, it's like PeopleSoft, but for pot farms. Thanks.
As you can see, it was a lot of fun for me as well as our due diligence team to interact with Eric and his, David and his team, and looking at the product and talking to a few of the customers. David never fails to surprise us. Anyway, so things that we covered in our due diligence was the team and the company, and special focus was on David himself, who is the founder, as well as trying to talk to a little bit around Eric and the other co-founder. So that was what we covered. We also focused a lot on the traction that the company has made in the past few years, and David did a great job covering in the slides, so we won't go into that over here. Product and competition was what our focus was, and soon talking to David, I realized he actually follows a tenet that is very close to my heart. Competition is important, customer is the key, and that was something which popped very, very early in our due diligence process, where everything around what the product is built is about customer needs. Every single engineer has to make sales, has to take support calls. All the product development and features are prioritized based on customer needs. So that was very, very something that really impressed me a lot. We also looked at marketplace and how is the cannabis software service marketplace evolving. We all know that legalization of marijuana is going on pretty well across the board in US, but we weren't sure how the services part of it was growing. And so far what we found in our due diligence is the growth rate is pretty good. And as David was mentioning, that with few extra states, the growth rate can easily go 5 to 10x in the next few years. For the remaining questions, let's start with just 2 of them. First one will focus on the regulatory risk. So as we see, the regulations sometimes are slow changing, but sometimes can happen suddenly and won't happen overnight. It offers both an opportunity as well as a risk. So can you talk to us, David, a little bit about how you are set up to navigate both the opportunity as well as the risk part of regulation changes?
So the beauty of integrating with the state government system is that there's a lot of visibility as to what is happening next. Government does not move very quickly. So if something is changing, we have a lot of visibility to the fact that it will be changing. We also think, corporate culture, we think that the bureaucracy exists to perpetuate the bureaucracy. So we also feel like these state agencies that get these systems in place, they're going to keep them in place for quite some time. There's a bit of a contingency plan. If states go forward without regulation, without some e-gov system, the farmers and processors and distributors, they still need to manage their inventory. They still need to do cost controls on what's happening on their farm, what's happening in their business. And if we've already got a trusted brand in that space, that we can have built so far, we can carry that over. Additionally, with our focus on just the regulated industry, there's still 20 other states that have an unregulated marijuana marketplace that are using systems that don't report to eGov. Well, we can make moves into those other states if there is some fog around what's going to happen with the regulated systems.
Okay. That sounds great. So now let's talk a little bit about stickiness of your product, right? One stat that really I found impressive was out of your 100+ paying customers over the last few years, right, or 90 or so, you have had only 2 of them drop out, right?
3.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's a big deal, right? A big churn number. So coming from an industry where the churn rate sometimes is as high as 30 to 40%, that number is a little staggering. So can you talk to us a little bit about what makes your product sticky? And are there anything else in your offering that can make it even more stickier and not even lose those three?
And the last question was, how did I lose those three? I
what
don't
do
really
you
want to talk about it.
I know.
But the stickiness of the product, customer-driven features, that keeps people around. The farms have an obligation to do labeling on all of their materials that are in there, the plants and all of the inventory control. Other software doesn't integrate with that nearly as well, and we're able to make a process that sometimes requires 3 or 4 pieces of software into a few button clicks. We just recently discovered that there's a burden to transport QA details on paper with all of the sales into retail, and made that now a button press available. So instead of identifying QAs for 50 items and printing them, 1 button press print. Like, I mean, Kyle, dude, thanks, that just saved me like 6 hours every day that he has to sell product, which is every day.
Okay, that makes sense. And anything else that is in the makings that will prevent even those 3 that left from leaving?
Oh, we'll never know.
Come and see me afterwards.
Thank you.